The REB Business Empowerment Showcase, shining a spotlight on the most innovative businesses that are helping principals, agents and property managers get ahead in their marketplace.
Well, good day, everyone. It's Liam Garman here, editor of Real Estate Business, back today with another episode of the REB podcast. And I am joined by a very special guest here in the studio who's going to unpack some secrets that agents can have in their back pocket to convince people at the listing as to why they're a better agent, but also some unique solutions out there, especially as the world of finance, it is getting tight for a lot of vendors out there, and a lot of people who are looking to list might be a little bit frightened away with some of the upfront costs that they haven't factored into the sale. And to talk us through this, I'm joined by Giordano Stepancic, founder and chief executive officer at Property Credit. For our listeners at home, I actually had to do a few different iterations of that name. Mate, welcome to the podcast.
That was well done. That was really good.
That was our eye contact when I said that. I was like, oh no,
checking you were going to get it right.
Yeah, but I wasn't going to get it wrong.
You've done
and
well.
mate, you're down here in Sydney from the GC.
Yes, I am from the Gold Coast.
Just for the
Lovely
day,
sunny Gold Coast. That's right. Just to come see you guys. I was excited to be here today. So thank you for inviting me. I'm really excited for a chat.
No, you're too kind. I'm sure, look, the business Property Credit is growing so substantially at the moment that I'm sure you got a lot of clients down here in Sydney that you're looking to work with and that you had to meet up with today. But unpacking all things Property Credit, mate, give us a little bit of background into the business and what you're doing to help vendors at the moment.
Yeah, of course, no worries. Look, with Property Credit, we are essentially a finance business. I mean, you can boil it down to that as a single piece, but really, we're actually intensely interested in the vendor experience, in helping care about the sale. I think that's actually what we are as people, as a team. At the end of the day, what we're trying to do is help both the professional and the homeowner, the seller, get through a sale in as much ease as possible. We're trying to solve for more than just a single, hey, let's get this property listed. What we want to do is we want to observe and support that team. Again, that team being the professional and the homeowner. We want to support them through that journey, okay, from start to finish. We want to get them in that new home happy, and we want to get that agent into their next listing, all in one.
So what makes it different from other companies out there that promise similar things it is the upfront finance support, isn't it, for those kind of hidden costs throughout the process?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think there's just in this industry has probably spent too much time focusing, in my opinion, focusing on the initial upfront, as you say, costs, the marketing spend, as it were, to get to market, staging costs, things like that. I think what isn't considered at the start of any of these journeys is the entire cost of selling a home. When you do sell, you have a journey to take. You from the moment you decide you're going to sell, there's costs that start to get incurred. In states like where I'm from in Queensland, you've got the new Form 2 process, which is obviously disclosure requirements. You're doing that before you're even allowed to go to market. Next year with Tranche 2 AML, there'll be AML requirements that will happen before you even list your property. Once you get to market, then you're on market, right? You've got advertising costs, you've got staging, you've got probably some pre-sale improvements even, and everyone thinks that's where it stops. But the reality is it goes further. As soon as you've decided to sell, you actually also often decided to buy, or at least move on, right? And at that point, whether you are buying a new home or you're going to move into a rental, you now have more costs. You've got moving costs. You've got storage costs. I mean, double mortgage costs if you're going to buy somewhere else, right? The list will literally go on. And I think what we're focusing on is we offer a facility. So it's really at the start of this, at the introduction point, we review someone's position and we sit there and say, here's the doorway to the equity in your home. Okay, you just tell us when and why you need it, and we'll solve that problem along that way, all the way through until the sale happens. And uniquely, we actually include the agent in that process. So they're the one that can help to guide. They can be a guide for their vendor, and they can help instigate some of those introductions or moments in which finance is required. The agent can actually prompt, the name, the brand, and even using our software, the introduction.
So what's that relationship with the agents look like?
You mean between Property Credit and us?
Yes.
Okay. So we are a platform as well. We have a software, and we allow an agent to use us in a number of different ways. You can go with as basic as taking a brochure from us. So at the end of the day, we will allow an agent to run the way they want to run. So yet again, it's not our way or the highway. All roads lead to Rome, in my opinion. So we'll provide, some agents will literally just download a brochure from our website and present us to their agent, to their vendor, sorry. And the vendor will find us, call us, apply with us. We'll then notify the agent that happened, because obviously they have to tell us who they're selling with, right? And then we loop the agent back in. But they can go as far as having it entirely integrated into their processes, into their platform, into their admin process, and actually request funds for marketing is a good example, straight out of their systems, okay, using our software, using our technology. As well as obviously using us ongoing in their pocket. The agent can pull that out, and there's a pre-settlement issue. So you got a building and pest, that is completed, and there's something wrong with the hot water system. Okay, that buyer often goes, okay, well, we'll just knock $5,000 off the price and we'll be fine, when it's only a $2,000 fix.
Yes.
In this case, the agent can pull the phone out of their pocket. Within 3 clicks using our app, they can refer that $2,000 cost straight to the vendor, right? Who we can fund. We can fund the repair of that, and they can actually fix the problem rather than accepting a lower price.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yes, that is very cool. And it almost puts those bargaining, those negotiating chips back with the vendor and the agent, because you're able to address those cosmetic, but those fundamental things, you can address them up front.
Yeah, I think we often talk about with property management, right? The property manager is the piggy in the middle. Unfortunately, they've always got a tenant that's complaining and a landlord that doesn't want to pay for things, or is complaining in a different way, and they play that middle role. We don't talk about the fact that the sales agent is in the same position, right? Yeah, okay, you might think they've got the negotiating power, but when that comes up, let's talk that hot water system again, right? When it comes up, all of a sudden the agent is the first person to receive the information. And they're going, okay, now I have to find it. Now I've got to figure out, I've got to now be this negotiator, got to be this bearer of bad news, and go back to the owner and say, hey, we're going to have to drop the price because this issue's arisen. Now they can go in and say, this issue's arisen, here's how we're going to solve it, and then we're still going to settle for the same price you've already accepted. There's no renegotiation, right? Very different discussion to get to have, to come in with power.
Yes.
And
that ability to be flexible, that you're not necessarily there as the vendor in the dying days counting your pennies when it really matters, because there are a lot of those hidden costs, and there are times where you will be paying double mortgage or rent and a mortgage. So incredibly important things. Now, on this podcast, I often discuss how the agency world is becoming more cluttered than ever. And, I do have a lot of people on this podcast that come on and say, well, it's always been cluttered. I think it's fair to say, we've heard some pretty gnarly stories out there of a bit of a rush to the bottom in terms of commission for sales. We've heard a bit of a rush to the bottom in terms of sales agents offering the world, well, we'll cover your marketing costs, we'll do this, we'll do that to get in. And it is actually kind of eating away at those bottom lines. Talk us through how offerings like property credit actually enable agents to distinguish their offering from their competitors.
Yeah, okay, absolutely. You are right. I mean, it is a cluttered space, ironically cluttered in software too, right?
It is. 100% in the prop tech space, yeah.
Prop tech, finance, we're not the only one out there, and that's okay. And I think competition breeds innovation, so that's a good thing. But when it came to talk about the cluttered space of agency and having to win that listing, yes, it is right. It is hard. And we are going to be an arrow in that quiver. We're not going to solve the entire problem. But when you can walk into a listing appointment, right? And you aren't discussing commission rates, and you're not discussing, just the cheapest, best way to get on market. Rather, you're walking in and saying, here's how we're going to get you the best price, right? And the solve being that you can get the full marketing campaign because you can fund everything. You can, we can bring your property up entirely. You actually just change the whole discussion, in my opinion. I unfortunately, we're never going to be able to remove that question that arises every time. What's the commission? And I want less, on spend. But if you can, I guess, offset that discussion with the fact that no, this is like look at the results I've been able to achieve in the past, as you always do. Every agent does. I did. I sold commercial and residential real estate in my time as well. But you change the discussion to focus in on the results, right? And not let the barrier of, it's only $2,000 I've got for marketing to spend, and go, here is the campaign that's actually going to get you the outcome you want, right? And the cost is paid at the end. It's solved at the end, okay? That's going to win the listing. But let's go a little further now, okay? Once what isn't discussed, okay, and what goes past the normal VPA winning of a listing there is the open homes. Okay, an open home is the best opportunity, in my opinion, for an agent to win their next listing. Okay, you've got those people walking through the door and they're looking at that home. Okay, when they're looking at that home, they are in that process of buying, which means 9 times out of 10, or I think the actual statistics are probably a little bit lower than that, what the statistics are is they are selling as well. They're selling to move, okay? So it's a sea change, it's a step up, it's a step down, whatever it is, they're moving. So they are a potential seller, or they're even a current seller, okay? And that conversation can be had in that moment, in that room. So we have actually had situations that run through our service where an agent has come to us saying they've got a buyer on a property. They can't buy until they sell. That's what we solve. So they introduce property credit and they say, well, what you're able to do now is you can put a deposit down using the equity in your home you're about to sell. I will sell your home for you and you can secure this one now. Lock it down with a deposit. Okay? Then we get we get your property listed. We're not having a discussion about commissions anymore right away. We're having a discussion about how we're going to get you into the home you want, which pre-commits you to that sale of your own home.
So it's quite solution oriented. Can you explain that a little bit more in depth? So they would take the equity from their current home to buy their new dream home.
I should probably explain that to be correct. Exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we have to be called a finance business. We are a finance business.
Yeah.
But in reality, for a average Joe to understand, they have value in their own home. Okay. If you have a home worth $1 million, I'm choosing these really simple numbers here, $1 million, and you owe the bank $500,000, you have $500,000. You have $500,000 of equity in your home. So when you sell that home, that will be the money that goes in your pocket. So what we are aiming to do and provide as a solution here is the doorway to that equity. Okay, so it is via finance, but the reality is we're assessing the equity in someone's home and saying you can use that to move to your next location.
And that would be done by property credit.
Correct.
But you're not going to finance it. You would facilitate it.
Well, no, this is finance. So it's just like a bank, right? So the bank has their $500,000 debt on the home. We're obviously adding a bit more, being another lender on top of that. But we're assessing the simple fact that you have that equity and it's going to be yours when you sell. So we're just letting you have it now as a loan, okay, which you repay on settlement.
Yeah, right.
But it's not just marketing, okay? It goes beyond that. That's the point, right? Once you know you have that available to you, that's when you can sit there going, well, now I can actually move forward. I can make the decisions I was going to make after I sold now, okay? Which again allows the agent, to help them either buy a new place or help them sell the home that they've listed and win the listing for the property that for the buyer. As well.
For sure. See, I was almost thinking, and I did for all of my guests on this podcast, I do a fair bit of research before I come in, but I think maybe my frame of reference was. I was too small fry because realistically, I mean, your point is very, very fair. So you were an agent. How many people would come past for a sticky beak? But then they would be thinking, well, I'm having a sticky beak, but I haven't listed yet. Oh, correct. This one's going to have to go through the keeper. That's right. Here's a solution that bridges that. If you really do love it, we can list your place. Let's put that on hold for a little bit. We can get you that bridging finance to be able to do both.
Correct. Now you can introduce them there in that moment.
Yeah.
Okay. So unlike almost anyone in this space at the moment, there's this arbitrary requirement to already have your property listed or already have it sold. Have that done before you buy the next home. Now, practically speaking, does that make sense? Wouldn't you already kind of need to have at least some understanding of where you're headed before you sell your home? And that's often a barrier when you're having that. Let's go back to the listing appointment. You're in room and one of the blockers always is, well, I'm not sure if I'm ready to list yet. I don't know where I'm going right now. And back in my day, I had no answer for that. It's like, well, don't worry. Once we get you on the market, you can start looking around. But that's not a real answer. Okay, the answer is yes. Well, there are services out there that can assist you to shop with confidence, to go out there and make those decisions, make those moves now while you're selling. It's about kind of making sure the journey is entirely linked properly. There's no stop starts, which is the way the industry works right now.
So let's unpack making real estate human, especially in this AI and tech revolution. I think maybe do agents get too wrapped around the wheels in terms of the tech side of things? It seems like this solution, in being able to pitch it, is ultimately quite a human endeavor, right? Because you're there as the problem solver, and maybe looking into the future, that's the next iteration of agent, because you've got all your efficiencies, you've got all your platforms, your solutions, and what you're paying for is the agent's brain. It's the solution finder.
Well, solution provider, that's actually what we say in our office.
Yep.
So we're turning agents from salespeople into solution providers. That's how we see it, exactly right. And we're the supporting act. So from our perspective, creating, focusing on that human element is so important to us. So yes, obviously, we're a tech business too. Okay, we've implemented AI in a number of different areas of our business, but it's all in the back office. What we're doing is we're empowering our team and our staff to be able to spend more time on the phones, to be able to spend more time with vendors and with agents. Okay, to help service them. Okay, I believe that as we move forward into this technology AI era, you are 100% right. It's actually going to be the empathy that comes out king. Okay, that's the thing that can't be emulated. I think we will allow our team to spend so much time on a single phone call with an elderly lady that's struggling to comprehend this process she's about to go through. We're no longer in the finance world at this point. She's just needing to have someone to talk to, and she's doing that with the agent. Okay, and so what we're doing is we're being a supporting actor. We're expanding on that with her, and we're just there to support. We'll listen. We'll have a conversation with her. She can call in at any time, right? If you go on our website and you jump on the chat, button on the bottom right, unlike most companies, that's not AI. It's a real human.
Really?
Supported in the background, of course, right?
Yeah.
To help make sure that we can get speed to answer.
Yeah.
But the reality is we always keep that human element in there.
See, that's quite interesting. And I know a lot of people who regularly listen to this podcast know that is probably the biggest example that I give. Actually, probably both of the biggest examples that I give over the inherent risk of, say, an agency or a network moving to AI before they have the processes in place to actually really utilize it. We're of the age where we can think back to thousands of examples where you'd have that online chatbot and it is just so useless. Like, it just genuinely doesn't help.
There's still a lot of that.
There is some of that. I can give examples even of just probably a month ago where I'm typing in these questions. It's not coming up with anything. Yeah. And we do have this inherent lack of trust in these models. And when you use them, or when you use a very clearly automated AI voice calling service, you deplete that trust, you deplete that empathy, you deplete that human emotion when someone has to do that. So the fact that you've actually got someone there is fantastic. You can handhold them on that journey. You can build up that level of trust. But it almost makes me consider you guys have quite a big team then.
We do, yes. Probably bigger than we should have. We're definitely bigger than I guess we would need in a full technology era. But that's the point. I believe from the very beginning of this business, like the genesis of where we came from was about trying to help people get through life, right? Finance happens to be our choice in how we're going to do that, but it's so important to me and to our team, anyone who comes onto our team, that I don't mind. I want that to be the case. I'm happy to employ more people. Okay, back them up with the technology and with the AI, but we want to make sure that we support this industry, right? Okay, and lead by example, keep it human. But support it with the technology and AI. It just needs to remain human. We need to keep that connection. It's something that's going to be more important as time goes on, I think.
Peeling back the layers a little bit, you mentioned, of course, behind the scenes you're using AI, tech, automation, all of that. Can you give us a glimpse into the inner workings of the company?
The inner workings, yeah. Well, look, I mean, we obviously we have a tech stack like anybody else that allows someone to, again, either an agency to request some payment from a vendor, whether it be for marketing, yes, or for other expenses along that sale journey, or send a referral through. Okay, and that owner can, within a few minutes of an online application, get their pre-approval. Okay, so that's the technology piece. But what will happen right after that is, within our SLA timeframes, service level agreement. Yep. SLA timeframes is they'll get a human phone call. Okay, and they'll have that conversation. Now that person is on the phone to them, talking to them, isn't so much doing the assessment of a loan. Okay, that's been done. technology can deal with that. There are so many services out there that we work with, other prop techs that we work with, including some, obviously things that we built ourselves that allow us to fully assess, a financial situation of somebody entirely by technology. But the person getting on the phone to them is actually that, even from our side, now that kind of the human test. It's the conversation to say, how are you doing? Do you understand, what you've gotten, what you're going through here? Can I help in any way? And at the same time, the responses that come back to us help us to just get a level of comfort. And so really all our team's doing is grading out their comfort level with that person, and then kind of building a story around it so that then we know how to support them the whole way through that journey. But then every step of the way, there's always an ability for them to jump online to yes, chat, but also to send inquiries through, which will use technology, but it'll always end up with a human, and it'll give our team the suggestion of how to respond, but then let the human do that piece, that final step. That's probably, I guess, as much inner workings as I can think through.
No, and
just want to dive deeper.
No, it makes a lot of sense. You did say something that I wanted to unpack further. Now, keep in mind, I've never actually used a product like this in terms of relying on the finance, but you said that from the agent perspective, you would at Property Credit be working directly with the agent. So if you did get approval for that marketing spend, you would be liaising with that. It's not necessarily that the $2,000 is going to end up in the vendor or the future buyer, I guess, their account. You're doing that behind the scenes, or you can.
We certainly can. That's exactly right. So yes, you're right. There is an alternative where we'll include the vendor a bit more, but it's almost at the agent's behest. We don't really provide a lot of solution to people who don't use a professional to sell their home. We're trying to support this industry and we want to help them through that. And so we do need to include that agent in that process, and we do prefer to make sure that the funds are arriving in the agency trust account. Now, there are some businesses out there, some agencies out there that offer full services that include staging, even styling, and sometimes even repairs, and all that's run through the agency, including through their trust account. Now, we support that. Others, obviously, smaller outfits and things will want to remain just marketing spend, for example, but they do want to provide the concierge service, right? Again, the solution provider part of it. So they'll help orchestrate trades and things, but the bills will be sent separately. We can individually pay those bills separately for them, so we can break that up. Our system allows us to literally pay each person individually, which makes it a lot cleaner for the agency, but also for the owner. The owner can now see where that's going. They've got that statement. They can see where all money's been sent to, and it allows them to have full visibility over things, which provides great comfort. When it comes to finance, everyone is inherently, I guess, skeptical. And so we work to make sure everything is as transparent as humanly possible.
One common bit of feedback that we have from a lot of listeners and a lot of readers at REB is that in the world of prop tech, there's just so many solutions out there. And I think it's very universally agreed that sometimes they don't all talk to each other. Sometimes they might fix up one small issue. People get lost in the cracks. How does Property Credit work with all of these solutions to make sure that you have that streamlined service for both the agent and the vendor?
Yeah, of course. Well, look, without getting too technical, we have an open API. We can integrate with anybody and everybody. But we've I guess, taken it a step further, and we've actually been trying to work directly with prop techs to provide them our solution as an almost white label. We don't go with a clean white label, brand it entirely yourself, because it is finance. And if ever there's some heat to be taken, it should be on us.
And there'd be compliance behind the scenes and everything. Yes,
that's exactly right. Yeah. But the idea is it slides in nicely with other prop techs. And yes, okay, we can talk CRMs, but I don't think we ever want to get down too deep into that path. There are other prop techs, right, that integrate with the CRMs as well. I'm trying to think through a few as examples without naming too many names. But even some in property management, because we obviously have a finance option for property management as well for investment properties. We're embedded in the workflow that allows you to book maintenance, for example. So when someone's booking a maintenance or a repair job, they can actually opt for finance. And it's all within that workflow that the agency already uses and that the vendor already uses. And now, obviously, it's all aligned that they can leave that workflow and they can log into our platform and they can see the same thing. So everything, again, all roads lead to Rome, but it is embedded so that they can turn it on there, right? But still access it here. Nothing changes.
That's very interesting. Now, you did actually mention property management a few times before, but I didn't have the chance to dive into that. That's particularly interesting. So in terms of your target audience for that, I'm going to take a stab in the dark. Investor buys a new house, didn't leave themselves a buffer, boiler goes out, needs new roofing, suddenly they need quick finance. Is this what we're looking to cover? Is this where property credit comes in?
One of many one of many situations people find themselves in. You're exactly right. Similar to the sales side, when I said it's the equity in someone's home and it's a facility, so it's more of like an up and down movement. Same thing goes with investment properties. Anyone who owns an investment property knows that it's a lumpy journey. You'll have, even if you've got this consistent level of rental income, the bill's never consistent. Even the body corporate of the rates come, half yearly, quarterly. So always got this up and down lumpy income. So we will go in and we'll work with an agency, with a property management firm, to set up a facility for their owners, each of their owners, that allows them to access funding for any of those needs. Yes, they've purchased a property and there's a large problem like hot water system bursting or whatever you might have mentioned. I forgot that, Liam.
The tiles on the roof.
Tiles on the roof. Who knows? It could be anything, right? But it's also the small things. So often what will happen is you'll have the rates and the body corporate arrive at the same time, which doesn't mean anything more than there'll be nothing left in income for the landlord at the 100%. End of that month, right?
But couple that in with some tenancy issues. Maybe someone leaves and you've got 4 weeks, 5 weeks.
It adds up very quickly, 100%. Right? And doesn't, rain, hail or shine, you just got a mortgage payment to make when you're an investor. And so if we can offer the finance piece, even for the smaller jobs, it's about smoothing out that journey. Yet again, trying to make it all work well for the owner and the property manager. It smooths everything out. We can pay for all those bills. You're exactly right. It's the upfront costs. First 2 weeks rent that's paid out, right? We'll fund that. At a stretch, if someone has mortgage payments they need to cover while it's not being tenanted, as long as it's listed and we're about to get a new tenant, then we'll help hold that property so that they can get it re-tenanted and they just pay it back with a portion of the rental income over time.
Yeah. Does it extend to commercial?
Sorry?
Does it extend to commercial property?
We do actually offer commercial solutions.
Yeah, nice.
I was going to say, there's a couple of commercial solutions that we offer.
Yeah.
Specifically speaking, we have a finance piece for commercial that is property management.
Yep.
Often that's more like the fit out piece. So when you're trying to negotiate a lease and you've got to do, fit out or 3 months rent free, things like that, we'll help finance that.
Yeah, because I was thinking a lot of those resi points that you were mentioning, I'm like, oh my gosh, these are so amplified in the world of commercial.
The numbers just bigger. Add zeros.
Yeah,
right?
just bigger. Yeah.
Well, talking commercial, I had to make sure I mentioned. I wasn't going to say it, but I'll mention it now. Is we actually have one of the only offerings in Australia for GST funding.
Yeah, right.
Now, it's very bespoke, right? But I worked in commercial for years, and I worked in property development for years as well.
A lot of jobs you've worked in for years.
I've spent time...
Not a day over 21.
Thank you. Thank you. All this grey hair. I feel like it's every 5 years. I wanted to try all points of real estate so I could find what I could really solve, and that's where we've landed with property credit. But digressing back to commercial real estate is when you buy a commercial property, if it's vacant, if it's a piece of land and it's commercial, then you have GST to pay. Okay, goods and service tax. And at the end of the day, if it's $1 million, $2 million purchase, that's $200,000 in GST.
Yeah, it's massive.
Which again, if you're registered for GST and you're going to put a tenant in there soon after, you can claim that back the next month. Yeah. Right, in the next quarter. Right, in the next BAS cycle. So you have $200,000 up front, which your bank will not give you. Okay, there's not many banks out there anymore that fund GST. They will fund it, but they'll take it out of your LVR. So they'll take it out of the amount of money they'll lend you, which makes no sense because you're going to claim that back within a month or two. So we offer a finance solution that does that, covers the GST on purchase, and we organise a refund direct with the ATO. So we do the whole thing, the whole kit and caboodle from start to finish. And we're basically one of the only people in Australia that do that at this point in time. So that's development sites, that's commercial properties. We work with a lot of guys that are, expanding their own business. So the plumber that wants to buy his factory for himself, or a lot of shop fit out companies, right? But it also has expanded to large development companies that are buying $10 million sites and have $1 million GST bill that needs to be covered. It's bespoke, but there is a big market in commercial, and like we just said, you add zeros, it adds up very quickly.
100%. Now, looking at your perspective, you mentioned that you've worked right across real estate. Why did you get into property credit? What was the genesis of it? And broadly, what are you seeing in today's market?
Yeah, of course. Well, the genesis of it, I did. I spent my life searching for, a meaning, for something that I could really solve and help with. So yes, I went from selling commercial real estate to selling residential real estate.
So you went commercial first.
I couldn't sell homes. I'm not good at selling. It's actually very hard. I don't know if you've ever tried selling residential real estate, but it's definitely harder than commercial, in my opinion.
Yeah, right.
Because you've got to sell emotions.
Yep.
And you're a problem solver. You're a counselor. You're everything.
So
right?
you're a bit of a numbers man then.
I'm a numbers person. So it was commercial. It's like here it is. Here's the yield. Here's the return. Do you want it or not?
Yeah.
And leases were the same, right? So I started there. I did quite a bit for in the kind of Southeast Queensland space, and then I moved to residential. Failed miserably at it, and did holiday rentals actually before Airbnb existed. There's the big holiday homes used to run on the coast. I was doing a bit of that for a while. Yeah. Then residential developments. So I moved into development, and after that, obviously into bridging finance. So I was helping developers finance their developments. But over time, you realise that's just helping, kind of this really small subset of people. Yeah. And the genesis of this was that I received a phone call from a friend, a real estate agent out of Melbourne, who had a client that needed some assistance. And said, "Can I give you his number?" There was no context, by the way. I was in finance, obviously, and this guy named Ken calls me, and he gives me a call and he starts to explain his story. This story is what changed everything for me. I just go a little deeper here, but basically, what had happened was Ken's wife had just been diagnosed with dementia, and I don't know how dementia works properly, but obviously, the way he was explaining it was moving quickly. Okay, so it was a bit faster than they anticipated. So he was changing his life. They owned their own home, no debt. He had already put a deposit down on a home for her, and he was buying a unit nearby, and he'd put a deposit down on that. But that's not what he needed finance for, because there are bridging finance companies out there, they're not just ours. He said to me, "I just want to spend some time with my wife." So he was looking at a caravan so they could do a drive around Australia. He was listing the property for sale. Wasn't listed yet. This is the agent that referred it. And he just wanted to act now because he knew that there was very limited time left. And he'd tried banks. He'd tried anyone he could think of to find a funding solution that would solve this bespoke, in his mind, bespoke problem. But in reality, just something that happens between sale and purchase. Yep. Okay, so after he explained it to me, I just sat there, stunned, going, well, why is there no solve for this? Why can't we help someone just do what they want to do when they're selling their home? Yeah. So obviously we jumped in. We helped them buy the caravan. They were in Melbourne and they drove up. They got up to Cairns when the property was sold under contract. So they sent us a selfie of themselves up in Cairns. Yeah. Obviously thanking us and everything else. And then obviously by the time they got to Perth, the thing settled, and it was a longer settlement because it's a very bespoke kind of half rural home. But it was an amazing journey to go on, and ever since then I've built this entire business off the back of being a friend of Ken. How are we actually solving their real needs? And that's what an agent does too. This is that problem solving thing we come back to, being a solution provider. And when an agent walks in, it's why are you selling? Because once you understand the reason, you can actually solve their problem better. Okay. And we move away from these discussions about what the commission is. The commission is what it is if I'm actually going to solve your problem, right? And that's what we want to support moving forward. So, and you asked me a question about into the future. I see the same thing. As time's going on, this inflation is not helping things. Okay. Rates, now again last month weren't dropped. Okay, because we've bumped things up with first-time buyers, which is great for first-time buyers, but just it's unfortunately we've got this two-speed market. There's nothing we can do about that. So the financial stress is only adding to people. But because property values are going up, they continue to get more and more equity in their home. So you can still move. You can still decide you want to downgrade, upgrade, see change, but you need the support in between. So as we move forward, I see services like ours not being the only one. There's going to be more that come out, and I think it's a good thing. I think if we can change the tides of the way the finance industry works, and it doesn't take weeks to get approval, it takes a day, it takes hours, that should be the case. We've got the power, we've got the technology, and now is when it's needed more than ever. When people are asset rich, cash poor.
So what's the next 12 months look like for property credit?
Look, we're obviously on the growth path at this point in time. We've spent a lot of time kind of in the background building our systems and our processes, and again, like we talked about technology, trying to make sure that we can handle scale. And now we are really ready to kind of, I guess, push massively. We're across 2 countries already, Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so we service both countries, and
Yep.
we obviously help with a lot of people moving from one country to the other. Ironically,
Of course, and that is
bridging finance,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
No one wants to move. You know,
Yeah.
that's what we're there for. But into the future, we want to build out that solve and help, I guess, agents empower them to be able to offer that as a full suite service, not a let's get your marketing paid at the end. It's what's your problem. Not what's your problem. Sorry. What's your need?
I think
what
that's
are you trying
fine.
to do?
You're being very diplomatic, but I think that's very reasonable.
But, well-
what is your problem? And to your point earlier, you could be very asset rich, but things are getting really expensive.
Yeah.
And even if you are bridging into a rental property for a few weeks, months, or you might be moving to a rent investing strategy, you might be downsizing, that is a substantial hit to the back pocket, even if you've got a lot of money tied up in that house but it ain't sold yet.
That's right. It makes no difference. Here's the thing. You can't go and live in a box when you sell,
Yeah.
right? In the street, you are going somewhere. And if you want to move into a rental property, you are still paying a bond. You're still paying your first few weeks of rent,
100%.
right? No matter how you cut this, there's always going to be a cost to it. And if the agent is empowered to know that they can solve that problem, or at least provide, a potential solution, it will just empower that vendor to be able to make a more active decision. Or empower them to be able to go, yes, I can sell now. They may not even take us up. The amount of times that we've got people inquiring for information and they go, great, thank you so much, and they walk away, but they get the listing because we see it. Like we work with that agent. Okay, that's a fantastic outcome, right? We can we can help the industry move forward by offering a solution that is always available during that sale.
Ultimately, you want to be the agent that can provide the solutions and provide measured solutions when asked, and that's what is going to enable you, our listeners, to differentiate from the market. Any closing thoughts before we
Closing thoughts.
Any closing thoughts?
I don't think I have any closing thoughts,
have any
Liam.
closing
This is it's been fantastic. I think the only thing I'd like to, I guess, repeat and say, and I've said it a couple of times already, is that I want agents to feel empowered.
Yeah.
I don't want this to be an agency-led thing. Agents themselves, people who are on the ground,
So, what was your
in the thick
go-to
of it.
reaction if someone had these problems back when you were an agent? It was kind of tough.
It was really tough back then. Funny you say that because I had a really hard time with it. In truth, I actually financed some other people's advertisings. That's why I stopped residential. I tried residential. I lasted less than a year in it, and the reason was because those stories really hit home to me, and I wanted to help them get on.
But that's
the
what we were
market.
talking about earlier, where it's not a race to the bottom in that way because you did it from a very empathetic, good position. But I mean race to the bottom more in terms of everyone is so trying to outcompete each other.
Yeah.
That you did it for a very empathetic reason. I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that are doing it for business reasons.
Yeah, of course, which is fine.
But that does, at the end of the day, cut into your business's bottom line. And if you're being empathetic, you've only got so much money.
I couldn't last. That's the point. I couldn't hack it. You do need to have a bit of a thick skin in this space. And evidently, honestly, mine probably wasn't thick enough for being in the room. And I'd financed too many people, and it just got to that point for me. Obviously, my principal wasn't going to fund it.
Yeah.
He told me that very
directly.
Very directly.
Yeah.
But he was right, and that was the point. So I think this is my second attempt at that. This is my new way of doing that. I can get involved by offering this solution. An agent can go in and they don't have to fund themselves. If it can't be covered financially by the vendor, then Property Credit can do it for them.
Now, for all of our listeners, if they want to get in touch, Giordano, how can they get in touch with someone at Property Credit?
Well, like I said, everyone's live. You can jump on our website, send an email, do a chat, make a phone call.
True.
All human people. But if you want to get a hold of
human.
me, obviously I am fairly active on LinkedIn, so you can find me full name Giordano Stepancic on LinkedIn. Otherwise, any which way you want.
Yeah, that's a good point. On the website, you're not just talking to
Just
a
human.
chatbot. There is a human there. Look, that is all we have time for today. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast, Giordano.
Thank you, Liam.
That was Giordano Stepancic, founder and chief executive officer at Property Credit. Reach out to the team Property Credit if you do have any questions, or if you're looking to diversify some of the solutions that you can offer your listings and your vendors. But that is all we have time for today on the REB podcast. And until next week, bye-bye.